You're listening to episode 3, featuring the true story shared by the author, Kamnap.
All right, so today we're diving into a first-hand account of the khmerrouge takeover in Cambodia.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty intense.
It is.
We're looking at
We're really going to be
a selection of verses
Yeah.
from this longer poetic work
Wow.
called 4 Years and 9 Days, My Life in the Kingdom of Hell, written by Kamnap.
And it's through his eyes that we're going to be experiencing April 1975,
Yeah.
the fall of Phnom Penh.
It's really fascinating how he captures those early weeks, the chaos and confusion, as the khmerrouge tightened their grip on Phnom Penh.
You really feel like you're right there on the streets with him,
You do.
like almost feeling the ground shake beneath your feet.
It's April 18th, just one day after the city falls.
Oh, wow.
And he describes this feeling of waking up from a bad dream.
Like just waking up from a nightmare.
And the nightmare's just begun.
And the khmerrouge,
They don't waste any time.
they don't waste any time at all.
He talks about being jolted awake by whistles and these pronouncements blaring through loudspeakers at dawn.
And imagine being told that you have to leave your home right now.
Right.
With only what you can carry.
For some unknown rural area.
Yeah. And everything's confiscated.
Cars, motorbikes,
They took everything.
everything.
Rithia says they kept repeating this phrase, Ankar will take care of them.
Yeah.
So who is this Ankar?
It's like this mysterious, all-powerful entity that suddenly controls everything.
It's so disorienting, right? On
Yeah.
top of all that, they're using all these unfamiliar terms.
Yeah, like...
Ankar, snare, Ankar, doctus.
Exactly.
It's like they're intentionally trying to strip away everything familiar,
They are.
make people feel completely lost.
That's it. Exactly.
Say lost.
It's about control by breaking down existing social structures, eliminating familiar points of reference.
So they're trying to
They create a vacuum
create a vacuum.
where their ideology can take root.
So Rithia and his family are forced onto these crowded roads.
Everyone's pushing whatever belongings they could salvage on these makeshift carts, trying to stay close to their home, but they're prohibited from going back.
What's so striking is the sense of confusion, like the utter lack of information.
Nobody knows where they're going or why.
No one knows anything.
Rithia even mentions seeing cars abandoned on the side of the road.
Really?
Their tires mysteriously missing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It really paints a vivid picture of a breakdown of order,
Yeah.
the feeling that anything could happen.
Anything.
They eventually find temporary shelter in a pagoda.
But food and water are scarce.
Yeah, and then there's this truly chilling discovery,
This is where you really see the human cost of this upheaval.
where it's no longer just,
It's not just some abstract political ideology. It's about basic survival.
yeah.
Rithia and his cousin, they go to fetch water from the pagoda's pond.
And what do they find?
Corpses floating in the water.
Oh, my God.
Same water they drank from the night before.
That is horrifying.
This detail highlights the fragility of life in this new reality.
Even something as basic as water
Right.
is now a potential source of death.
Exactly.
They decide not to tell their family,
Right.
not wanting to add to their distress.
Of course.
What a heartbreaking decision to have to make.
It shows the impossible choices people were facing.
The impossible choice.
The constant weight of fear and uncertainty.
Driven by hunger and maybe a sliver of hope,
Right.
Rithia's family tries to return to their home in Baekchan.
Right.
They try to move discreetly, always aware of the Khmer Rouge soldiers patrolling the streets.
It's that human instinct
Yeah.
to cling to what's familiar, to try to reclaim some sense of normalcy in the midst of chaos. But under the Khmer Rouge,
that's dangerous.
that desire is dangerous.
They see evidence of the regime's grip everywhere.
Everywhere.
Money is literally worthless.
Worthless.
Rithia describes seeing reels scattered on the ground, soldiers ready to shoot anyone who dares to pick them up.
That's a powerful image.
It is.
It really drives home the point that the old rules no longer apply.
The Khmer Rouge are intent on creating an entirely new society, and they're willing to use any means necessary to achieve their goals.
And everywhere.
Everywhere.
People are being marched towards unknown destinations.
You get this overwhelming sense of lost freedom,
Yes.
of individual lives being swept away by this tide of revolutionary fervor.
It's important to remember that these marches weren't just random acts of cruelty.
They weren't random.
They were part of a calculated plan to empty the cities, to force people into these vast agricultural labor camps.
Oh, wow.
But there's a brief moment of light amidst all this darkness.
Yes, Rithia's father unexpectedly encounters his sister and her family.
Yeah.
It's such a small thing.
It is.
But in that moment, it really shows the power of human connection.
The importance of family.
The importance of family in the face of unimaginable hardship.
Exactly.
These moments of human connection,
Yeah.
they become all the more precious in such oppressive conditions.
They offer a glimmer of hope, a reminder of what the Khmer Rouge are trying to destroy.
Sadly, it's a fleeting reunion.
Yeah.
They're forced to separate again.
It's a bit of foreshadowing,
It is.
hinting at the separations and losses so many families would endure under the regime.
And as we head into part 2, remember, this is just the beginning of their journey.
The excerpt leaves us with Rithia and his family exhausted,
Still unable to return home.
facing a future full of unknowns.
The cries of hungry children underscore the ongoing hardship.
They do.
And we're left to contemplate the immense challenges that lie ahead.
Yes.
Wow.
We'll get into that in the next part.
Yeah, we will.
Yes.
So, it's hard to even imagine having your whole world just turned upside down in an instant.
And it's important to remember that Rithia's experience, while incredibly powerful, is just one small piece
Yeah.
of a much larger and even more horrific story.
Right. His story gives us this intimate glimpse into the human cost of the Khmer Rouge's actions.
Yeah.
But what about the bigger picture? What were they really trying to achieve?
Well, they called their ideology agrarian socialism.
Agrarian socialism.
Yeah, they wanted to create this completely self-sufficient Cambodia, free from any outside influence.
Like a peasant utopia.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even begin to do something like that?
It starts with identifying your enemies.
Your enemies.
The Khmer Rouge saw anyone associated with the previous government, anyone considered an intellectual or professional,
Really?
even people who simply wore glasses,
Wow.
as threats to their vision.
So basically anyone who didn't fit their narrow definition of what a true Cambodian should be.
Exactly, and they weren't afraid to use violence to eliminate those perceived threats.
So we're talking about
Widespread executions,
executions.
forced labor starvation.
Wow.
Disease, the Khmer Rouge regime was responsible for the deaths of an estimated 2 million people.
2 million. That's almost a quarter of Cambodia's population at the time.
It is.
It's hard to even wrap your head around a number like that.
It's staggering, and Rithia's account, with all its personal details and emotional depth, helps us to connect with the human beings behind that statistic. It reminds us that each one of those 2 million lives represented an individual story.
A family ripped apart.
Yeah, a future stolen.
And we're still uncovering the full extent of the atrocities committed during those 4 years, right?
Absolutely.
I remember reading about mass graves being discovered even today.
The scars of that period run deep,
They do.
both for the survivors and for the nation as a whole.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of the lasting impact of trauma, of how difficult it is to rebuild after such devastation.
But even in the face of such darkness, there are stories of incredible resilience.
There are.
People finding ways to survive, to resist,
So hold on to hope.
to hold on to hope.
That's what's so important about accounts like Rithia's. They don't just document the horrors.
Yeah.
They also illuminate the strength and courage of the Cambodian people.
It's about honoring their experiences, preserving their stories, and learning from the past
Yeah.
so we can work towards a future where such atrocities are never repeated.
And that brings us to a question we want to pose to you directly. Imagine yourself in Rithia's shoes.
Okay.
How do you think you would cope in a situation where everything familiar is suddenly ripped away, where the rules you've always lived by no longer apply?
It's a heavy question,
It is.
no doubt, but it gets to the heart of what makes Rithia's story so compelling.
It does.
It forces us to confront our own capacity
Yeah.
for resilience, for hope, for compassion
Yeah.
in the face of unimaginable suffering.
It's a challenge to look beyond the headlines and statistics and truly grapple with the human cost of such events.
Because ultimately, it's through understanding these individual stories,
These moments of human connection,
these moments of human connection.
that we can truly learn from the past and work towards a better future.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Rithi's account,
Yeah.
I'm struck by the power of his words,
Yeah.
the way he uses poetry to tell this horrific story.
It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be easy to get bogged down in the brutality, the
Yeah.
sheer scale of the suffering.
Yeah.
But Rithia's use of poetry elevates the narrative. He transforms this horrific experience into something almost lyrical.
Almost lyrical. It's like he's finding a way to make sense of the senseless to create meaning out of chaos.
Exactly. And I think that speaks to...
Do you think his choice to use poetry also makes the story more accessible to the reader?
I think so, yeah. It invites us in emotionally,
Yeah.
allowing us to connect with Rithia's experience on a deeper level.
Because it's not just about the facts and figures.
Well, it's not.
Right? It's about the emotions.
Right.
The fear, the confusion, the despair.
But also those glimmers of hope.
Of hope.
Of love.
Of love.
And those emotions remind us that even in the most extreme circumstances, we're still human.
We are.
We still feel, we still love, we still hope.
Absolutely.
And those are the things that ultimately sustain us, that give us the strength to persevere.
So as we end this deep dive, I want to circle back to that question we posed earlier.
Okay.
If you were in Rithia's shoes, facing the unknown, forced to leave everything behind, how do you think you would cope?
It's a question worth pondering, don't you think?
I think so.
While we may never fully understand what Rithia and millions of others endured, we can try to imagine ourselves in their place.
We can try to empathize.
We can try to empathize with their struggles.
We can also find a renewed appreciation for the light, for the strength of the human spirit.
Yes.
The power of hope and compassion.
Well said.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a deeper understanding of this dark chapter in history.
It is a dark chapter.
It is a dark chapter.
Yeah.
It is. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep learning.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope it left you with a deeper understanding of this complex chapter in history. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share with your friends to stay updated on our upcoming episodes.